Hey everybody, welcome back. In today's video, inspired by fall, we are making a delicious cream of roasted tomato soup and some very simple apple grilled cheese sandwiches to go with it. The beauty of this soup is we're gonna get those flavors slowly developed in the oven before pureeing the soup. And because we're using cashews to cream it up and transform it into just the most comforting soup for the colder months, it's also going to turn it a nice shade of orange, which will be fun for any gathering during the fall or for Halloween. Let's get started. The first step in the recipe is to preheat your oven. We're preheating at 400 degrees Fahrenheit, which is about 205 Celsius. The tomatoes I recommend using for this recipe are pear tomatoes. You can technically do it with any kind, but these are my favorites in terms of flavor and texture. I'm gonna slice them in half lengthwise, and I'm gonna peel all the cloves in a head of garlic. Let's add some olive oil to coat our tomatoes. And of course, we need to season with some salt, freshly ground pepper. And I always love to add fresh herbs. My favorite one for this soup is fresh thyme. You can use dry thyme as well, of course, if that's what you have on hand. And just separate some of the leaves of a few of the sprigs and then add the rest whole. Now we roast in our preheated oven for 35 minutes, turning halfway through. We're gonna start caramelizing our apples for the grilled cheese sandwiches. And I know this sounds a little strange, but trust me, it's gonna give you so much of that fall vibe. And it's so delicious, that contrast between sweet and salty. I'm gonna peel my apples, cut them into thin slices, and then those slices in half. Heat a pan on high and add some non-dairy butter to the pan. Get that nice and melted, and now let's add our apples in. That's it. That's all you need to caramelize apples. That and a little bit of patience, because the sugars in the apples, they're gonna do all the work. These are gonna caramelize, they're gonna soften, and they're gonna shrink a little bit. What we wanna do now is set the heat to medium and cover the pan. And from time to time, check on them, move them around, make sure they're not burning in the bottom or sticking to the pan. Let your apples cook for about 10 minutes or until softened. Once your apples are done, add a touch of black pepper. Turn off the heat and set aside until you're ready to assemble your sandwiches. Once your tomatoes are ready, we're ready to transfer all of this to our blender. But one option, if you would like to, if you want a kind of more delicate texture, is you could easily peel the tomatoes and remove those peels. You're just gonna notice how easy they are to remove. However, because we wanna get this super bright orange today, I love to leave the skins on, plus it saves you time, so there you go. All you have to do is add everything into your blender, including all of the juices and the garlic cloves that are in the pan. Although we already seasoned slightly in the pan, I'm going to add an additional pinch of salt and pepper. And then of course, we're going to continue seasoning to taste once it's blended up. And another one of the main ingredients, some raw cashews. If you have a high-speed blender, a high-powered blender, you can add these straight in. If your blender isn't as powerful, it's a great idea to either soak these in water for a bit or boil them for 12 minutes in water. But I'm adding these straight in. That's what's gonna create that creaminess. Let's blend until we have a perfectly smooth texture. Look at that creamy and velvety texture. You're gonna see that it easily coats the back of a spoon. And look at that orange color. It almost looks like pumpkin soup or butternut squash soup. And people will be really surprised when the tastes hit their taste buds. Let's give it a taste and adjust salt and pepper as needed. Oh my gosh, that's almost there. But a touch more salt and a touch more pepper. If you're making this in advance, you can warm it up later in a pot, or you can serve it right out of a blender if you have a high-speed blender. These usually warm up soups pretty well. I always recommend a good sourdough for making these grilled cheeses. And what I have here is just 2 different types of vegan cheese that melts. You can use one type or your favorites. I am simply going to grab my bread, add a bit of non-dairy butter on the inside, add some of that delicious cheese, and now we go in with some of our apples. You're gonna have enough for about 4 sandwiches and 4 bowls of soup with this recipe. As it's a traditional grilled cheese, we're going to get that cheese melted by placing this in a pan. And for that, you know what we need, a bit of non-dairy butter on the outside of the bread. I like to do one side and then the other while it's in the pan. I think all soups can benefit from a cold, creamy, and slightly acidic topping. So you can feel free to make our cashew sour cream, which I'm linking to, or use some non-dairy yogurt and just add a swirl, plus a hint of fresh herbs, and we're ready to eat. I hope you enjoyed this recipe, and I hope you make it at home, and don't forget to show us your pictures by using the hashtag Brownble on Instagram. I can't wait to see what you make. Now you're ready to dig in and enjoy. Now, I don't know if you are a dipping person, but I sure am. That is wonderful. It's salty. It's got the fresh herbs, the garlic, the sweetness in the apple. So good.